back to our society. A new face. Oh, it's always good to have a new face, isn't it? Here tonight. Marilyn is going to talk to us about a sculptor, a Venetian sculptor, Romano Vio, who you will notice, if you're very clever, shares her surname. She'll tell you more about it. Thank you very much. Well, thank you.
Buonasera e prima di tutto grazie per questa opportunità di venire qua e presentarvi Romano Vio, mio suocero. Il collegamento, ma non un suocero qualunque, un uomo abilissimo nel modellare la creta, scalpellare il marmo, a creare delle opere bellissime e spero che alla fine della serata anche voi troverete qualcosa che vi piaccia, che vi commuova, che trovi interessante. Era un uomo schivo, umile, generoso, un uomo di fede. Amava la famiglia. Lavoro e famiglia erano i due punti fissi nella sua vita. Ho detto era schivo, non cercava la fama, non cercava i critici d'arte per pagare loro a scrivere su di lui. Tutti i premi, tutti i concorsi che ha vinto per puro merito e in Italia non è sempre facile questo, dove c'è ancora la raccomandazione. Troviamo le sue opere a Venezia, sua città natale, ma veramente sono poche. Si potrebbe anche dire che Vio è il figlio dimenticato di Venezia. Comunque troviamo nel Veneto Mestre, Chioggia, Miraporte, Fossò, Campo San Piero, Carvazere, Pieve di Soligo e in Italia Torino, Tor Viscosa, Milano, Perugia, Monza, Assisi, Savona, Vitigna, Maratea e le Gallerie Vaticane. E poi nel mondo, qui in Gran Bretagna, Austria, Svizzera, Stati Uniti, Canada, Brasile e Colombia. Ecco, e questa lista non è finita, perché ci sono opere di cui non sappiamo nulla. Lui era un artista, non un archivista, amministratore. He did not keep records of his work. Okay, and we were left with a chaos of papers. Questa sera voglio passare brevemente la sua vita, mostrandovi delle opere importanti lungo la sua carriera, poi 5 opere che hanno un significato speciale per me, poi un momento dedicato alle opere sacre e alla fine un piccolo pezzo di DVD che illustra il monumento più importante che ha fatto, il monumento a Umberto Giordano nella città di Foggia. I don't know whether anyone here has been to Foggia, has seen... No. Okay. So, here we have Romano Vio in a self-portrait when he was about late 30s, 40, we think. Okay. He was born in Venice, in Campo Santo Stefano, just a stone's throw from the Accademia Bridge, if you're familiar with the geography of Venice. He was the third and last child in the family, and after 2 girls, we think that the arrival of a boy was very welcome. His father had a job with the Magistrato delle Acque, so a safe job, but not one that allowed luxuries. we know very little about his childhood. He didn't talk about it, and whatever we did glean came from one of his sisters. However, he was a boy that did normal boyish things that he shouldn't have done. And one of these was that he would go down to the Giudecca Canal, he'd take off his clothes, he'd put them in a little pile on the canal bank, and he'd go off swimming to the other side of the Giudecca Canal. This was illegal, and it still is. Okay, and the vigili would come by, and they'd take away his clothes. And he'd get into a lot of trouble when he got home. We don't think that he took very kindly to school either, but he had an innate curiosity. And this curiosity led him to be a frequent visitor at a local sculptor's studio, where he was allowed to experiment with clay. And this is where it all began, his love of that material, because he was never happier throughout his whole life than when he was in his studio modeling clay. And so this spurred him on, and he went to the Accademia di Belle Arti, where he graduated in 1936. Nel 1935, cioè un anno prima di diplomarsi, ha vinto la medaglia d'oro in Genova per questo alto rilievo che si chiama Sogno di madre. Abbiamo la mamma con il bambino in cuna, la mamma che dice addio al figlio soldato, di questa immagine di una mamma. Quest'opera è stata comprata dal comune di Venezia, però non ce n'è più traccia. Passiamo al 1939, epoca fascista, e questo è Passo Romano. Ha vinto il primo premio nel concorso Fadiga. Romano aveva circa 9 anni quando il fascismo è arrivato in Italia, e lui è cresciuto con l'idea che il fascismo aveva degli aspetti buoni. La vita era abbastanza ben organizzata, soprattutto per la gioventù, però non appoggiava completamente il fascismo, ecco, non era molto politico. Quest'opera, mi pare, ha una freschezza, una vivacità che probabilmente lo distingueva dalle altre opere in concorso. Anche questo è stato comprato dal comune di Venezia, e anche qua non ce n'è più traccia. È possibile però che questo, dopo la caduta del fascismo, è stato distrutto da qualche mano malvagia. In 1941, he joined the teaching staff at the Accademia di Belle Arti in Venice. However, shortly afterwards, he was called up and he spent several years in the army. He was firstly sent to the Yugoslav front, where we think he made these sketches. While he was in the army, he spent a lot of time with his sketchbook. He was then sent to Sardinia, and Sardinia was to make a really big impression on him. He has left us some wonderful drawings of local culture, costumes, way of life. We have a wonderful series of them in Venice, and we would really like for them to be in an exhibition in Sardinia, because they they show a way of life that you cannot find anymore. And this is my favourite shepherd, full of character. I think he is absolutely beautiful, lovely.
You see them,
While he was in Sardinia, besides sketching, he kept a diary. And I'm just going to read you two extracts. The first one is dated the 25th of December, and we've worked out that the year must be 1944. È arrivato Natale e la mia speranza di rivedere la casa è stata una sola fantasia, vissuta di vane speranze. Viene l'inverno con i suoi rigori e la vita si fa precaria per tutti. Come faranno a passare l'inverno i miei cari sotto la condotta dei tedeschi, dei quali giungono le notizie più infami delle barbarie e ruberie che commettono sugli italiani? Ho la fede che soltanto la protezione divina conforti ed aiuti i miei vecchi genitori, le sorelle, la moglie e l'innocente creatura che devo ancora conoscere. Sento il pericolo incombente, ma rimango calmo. Nell'attesa penso a Yolanda, la moglie, e al bambino. La morte mi sembra impossibile, eppure penso che molti sono morti in simili frangenti senza aver mai conosciuto il proprio figlio. And in fact, when he did go home, it was to find that his father had died just a few months previously. And then this very short extract, it isn't dated. Le giornate sono esasperatamente lunghe e tediose, specialmente ora che l'autunno si fa sentire con la pioggia, il vento e le sere precocemente buie, fino a quando durerà questa orribile esistenza. However, when he did come home, he turned all these memories of life in Sardinia, or his sketches, into a series of bronzes. Here we have a shepherd, La Zamponiara, another shepherd with a goat, very modern in his interpretation. Goat. And this is milking the goat. This is how they used to milk the goats in Sardinia. And this is on the same theme. And this bit is important for one reason. When he arrived back in Venice, he had to sort of start again. He'd lost so many years. And he had to make a very important decision, whether he should stay and working within the Italian classical tradition with which he felt comfortable with its figurative style, or whether he should follow some of the modern trends that were then emerging. And he made a rather courageous decision to stay within the classical Italian tradition. And he had lots of conversations about modernity with his sons. And my husband remembers one conversation. He had modelled this in clay, beautifully modelled. And then he said, they were talking about modern trends. And he said, do you want to know what modernity is? And he picked up a piece of wood and he whacked it. And you can see here where it's been hit by the piece of wood. He said, that's modernity. And this links in, I'm going to read you. I'm not going to talk about his, he went back to the academia and he taught there until he retired. But we have an open letter that he wrote to his students, or at least we have part of it. And this short extract is very significant. Tutti I grandi maestri sondano lo spazio. È nella nozione di spessore che risiede la loro forza. Ricordatevi di questo. Non vi sono tratti, vi sono solo volumi. Quando disegnate, non preoccupatevi mai del contorno, sempre del rilievo. È il rilievo che regge il contorno. Esercitatevi senza tregua. Bisogna diventare rotti nel mestiere. L'arte non è che sentimento, ma senza la scienza dei volumi, delle proporzioni, dei colori, senza la capacità manuale, il sentimento più vivo è paralizzato. So, senza la capacità manuale, e la capacità manuale non è colpire la creta con un pezzo di legno, secondo lui. Passiamo, ce n'era un altro, questo qua. Passiamo al 1953. Questa è Dana. L'originale di altezza, di grandezza normale, è a Torino, nel Museo di Arte Moderno. È stata esposta al Quadriennale di Torino e comperata dalle città. Questa è una piccola replica che ha la famiglia. E questa figura l'anno scorso è diventato il logo della mostra retrospettiva per celebrare il centenario della nascita di Romano. Ha un gesto insolito nelle statue, che forma un po' un triangolo. Qua non si vede tanto bene perché è un po' di profilo, ma anche il vestito visto di fronte ha una forma triangolare. Era bravissimo a fare queste figure femminili. Here we are in 1956. This is Simonetta, and Simonetta was exhibited at the Venice Biennale. She has a very interesting expression. Some people call her detached, some people call it questioning, some people call it pensive. I came up last year with a very good adjective for it, and I can't remember it anymore. I've been trying all day to remember what I'd come up with, and I couldn't remember. It had very smooth cheeks and very rugged hair, and it creates these sort of chiaroscuro effects. There is a theory in the family that she looks a bit like Romano's mother. It's possible because she died not long before Simonetta made her appearance, so there could possibly be a link. 1956 was also the year when he won the competition for the monument to Umberto Giordano, but I'll come to that later on. 1962-63. Questo è Giuseppe Marchetti. il più giovane dei 1000 di Garibaldi. Questa statua si trova a Chioggia, nel giardino della scuola intitolata a Giuseppe Marchetti. E anche qui vedo la stessa freschezza, vivacità che abbiamo visto prima nel Passo Romano. Nel 63, in 1963, he was made a member of the Accademia Nazionale di San Luca in Rome. 1970. This is, here we are in Tor Viscosa, in the province of Udine. Here we have Romano in front of this monument to Franco Marinotti. This is a large cube with sculpted relief on all sides. It's 3.5 meters by 3.5 meters by 3.5 meters. And it's to remember this industrialist, Franco Marinotti, who manufactured viscose in Tor Viscosa, hence the name Tor Viscosa, Viscosa. And here is a detail. This is Marinotti about to shake hands with one of his workers, and here you can see the canne, the reeds that were used to make the viscose. Anche nel 1970 a Romano fu chiesto di fare una copia della statua di George Washington di Antonio Canova. Questa statua di Canova era nel Carolina del Nord, nel state capital di Raleigh in North Carolina. Fu distrutta da un incendio insieme all'edificio e quando hanno ricostruito lo state capital hanno voluto anche una copia di George Washington. The original plaster cast for this is in the Canova Museum in Possagno, well worth a visit, hard to get there, but well worth a visit. And they said, yes, you can have a copy, but you cannot touch the original. So my father-in-law had to go there and he had to make a copy in plaster, and then that was sent to Carrara and he went down there and it was sculpted in marble and shipped back to America. And this is where, as it stands today in the state capital, North Carolina. No artist likes to make copies of other artists' works, unless you're a professional forger, of course. And my father-in-law was no exception. However, he did say that this gave him an opportunity to put himself in Canova's shoes and experience the same emotions that Canova must have had when he was making this, sculpting this statue. And it gave him a greater understanding of the artist himself. Hence, last year, when we had this exhibition to celebrate the centenary of Romano's birth in the Palazzo della Ragione in Venice, we had an inauguration with a link-up with the state capital of North Carolina. They proclaimed the day Romano Vio Day. They issued some stamps, which you can see here, to remember him. In a way, much more than his native city of Venice had done for them. Our daughter, who lives in Canada, went there. She was on Skype, and it was all. They were really enthusiastic about it. Yeah. Per vincere la frode, un bronzetto ispirato al canto XVI dell'Inferno di Dante. questa statua esposta al Biennale Internazionale per Bronzetti a Ravenna. Qui abbiamo Dante, qui abbiamo Virgilio e questo è il mostro Gerione. Dante portava il cordone francescano che rappresentava la regola. Qui Virgilio dice: dammi il cordone, e lo butta nel baratro, perché dice contro la frode non c'è niente da fare, neanche la regola ha forza. E qui abbiamo questo this human bust and head, quite expressionist in a way, and the lower part of the body very grotesque, in the form of a serpent with a forked scorpion's tail. It was one of a pair of statues inspired by Dante's Hell. Very different from the Dana that we've seen before. It shows how he was able to adapt each work to that situation that he wanted to represent. 1981. Questa è la Madonna del Carmelo. Anche questo è una replica, perché la prima Madonna è stata colpita dai lampi e distrutto. Questa, la replica, adesso sta in alto della chiesa dei Carmini a Venezia. È alta 3 metri e perciò mio suocero ha dovuto modellarlo all'esterno. E visto che noi avevamo la casa di fianco allo studio di mio suocero, per un periodo di tempo ogni mattina aprivo la finestra del bagno e mi si presentava questa bella faccia della Madonna. In 1982 he was made a Knight of the Republic, Cavaliere della Repubblica, which didn't mean anything to him. He just threw the medal and things in a drawer and forgot about it. He wasn't interested in that sort of recognition. And he died in 1984. Now, this is the first of the 5 works that have a special significance for me. This is my husband as a small child. Isn't he sweet? Sorry. My father-in-law both his sons, he did the sculptures of them, and he also did his grandchildren. And I brought along the, not the heads, but these 2 medallions, which are in bronze, covered in silver, which he did of our 2 children, which are a lovely thing to have, and our children will have them when we're gone. La ballerina che allaccia la scarpa. Ha fatto diverse ballerine, anche qua la grazia della figura femminile bellissima, e forse ispirata a nostra figlia che ha studiato balletto per tanti anni. A noi piace pensare così. Le filatrici. This is perhaps my favorite. Once again, these 3 beautiful female figures spinning away, and I just like the delicacy of it and the way that he has made bronze, this heavy material, look like with these threads, just so delicate. We don't really know why he did produce this. We think it was a study for a fountain, but if it was, the fountain was never realized. In 1971, he did a series of 4 figures representing the 4 seasons. And that same year, my husband asked him if he would make a replica of one of them, which he did, but just making a small making a small change by putting a hat on her. And this was my present for my 21st birthday. E questa è la veneziana, tanta graziosa, solo alto 32 centimetri, insomma, abbastanza piccolina, ma tanto carina. Passiamo ora all'arte sacra. Come ho detto, mio suocero era un uomo che aveva una forte fede cristiana. Ha lavorato tanto per la Chiesa e anche solo per piacere suo. Questo è la morte di San Benedetto. Risale al 1950 e ancora oggi è in gesso, non è mai stato fuso in bronzo. Stiamo ancora aspettando qualcuno che ha i soldi. È l'opera che mio suocero stimava di più. Durante tutta la sua carriera, tutta la sua vita, l'ha sempre guardato e ha detto: qui non cambierei mai niente, per me è perfetto com'è. Così perfetto che una volta ha detto: non mi sembra di averlo fatto io. Ha colto San Benedetto proprio nel momento del trapasso. La fuga in Egitto ha una rappresentazione abbastanza moderna, figure un po' allungate, la posizione frontale di Maria appena abbozzata, però bella. Questo risale al 1960, esposta all'Antoniano, al Biennale Antoniano in Bologna. Apologies for the picture here, but this is comes out of a catalogue. We do not have the original work. The original belongs to the Spagnoli family, and if any of the ladies here are familiar with the Luisa Spagnoli ladies' dress shops in Italy, that is the family that I'm talking about. This is called Il Nostro Vessillo. Obviously we have Christ on the cross. This is Pope Paul VI, and it's a very elongated, very vertical statue on purpose to show the distance between Christ and these figures at the bottom of the cross, which represent indifference, hunger and war, and they are all turned their back against the cross, against Christ. It's a statue which is timeless in a way. It would have been significant during World War I, as it is now during Afghanistan, or anything, or poverty, hunger, anywhere in the world. This was his vision. Il Cantico delle Creature di San Francesco. Ovviamente qui abbiamo San Francesco e intorno abbiamo tutti gli elementi di cui lui parla nel cantico. È il sole, la luna, c'è il vento, ci sono i pesci, c'è l'acqua, c'è il fuoco e qui sotto c'è il teschio per la morte. this is called L'occhio della conoscenza, once known as Christ endows technology with knowledge. And here, of course, we have Christ, we have a robot, and this is the eye of knowledge. Technology is nothing without Christ behind it. That was the message there. And I've got, this is the first of two pictures from the last Via Crucis that he did. This is in the church in Miraporte along the Brenta Riviera. It was finished not very long before he died. And in it he has reached real maturity. This panel is oh, I'm sorry. Is Condannato. We have Christ in front of Pontius Pilate. We have these sort of fairly high reliefs in the foreground, gradually getting lesser and lesser into a sort of schiacciato relief, very mindful of Donatello in the background. And this is Inchiodato, Christ being nailed to the cross. And if any of you are interested in seeing the whole series of the Stations of the Cross, they are here in this book on this table. Finally, we come to the monument to Umberto Giordano. In 1956, Romano Vio won a competition to create a monument to remember the great musician, composer in his native city of Foggia. And Romano came up with a design, an idea that was totally different from anything else that any other of the entries submitted. He came up with a statue of Giordano himself to be placed in the middle of the square, and around him 7 statues representing 7 of his best known works, operas. It was a very novel idea, and it really caught the judge's eye. This is just a small study for one of the subjects for the opera Mese Mariano. We have the nun and the mother who cannot keep her child and is leaving her with the nun. It's fairly similar to what is in the park, as you will shortly see. This is a postcard from the time. You'll notice that there's a lot more greenery there at that time than there is now. This is Umberto Giordano, and here we have, you can just make out some of his works around him. This is for Andrea Chenier. It's probably his most famous opera, and Fedora. I mean, the detail, when you see them now, notice the detail. I mean, here you've got his walking stick and gloves. There was a great attention to detail to set it in the period in which the opera was set. And these statues are big. Yeah, they are big. Umberto Giordano was born in Foggia. He went and studied in Naples, and he was spurred on to write all these operas because at some point he entered a competition for a short opera, and he was highly commended, and that spurred him on to go on and write all these full-length operas. And the winner of that actual competition was Mascagni with Cavalleria Rusticana, so he was in very good company. So I'm going to let you watch this extract. It's about 8 minutes long. And it talks about this monument. There's some original footage there from when it was unveiled back in, I can't remember when, because he won the competition in '56, but it took a long time to produce all these statues. And finally, there's the final part of an interview with Professor Tiozzo, who was a friend and former colleague of my father-in-law. And I think his words provide quite a fitting end to my talk. There you are, it was inaugurated in 1961. So this should move in a minute. Hopefully.
Do you need to click again?
I don't know, I'm not sure. Dave's the expert here.
Try.
This is the original model that he sent in with his entry to the exhibition. Right.
Have you clicked, have you forward clicked again?
Sorry?
Click forward again, so as if you were going on to another slide. No.
Ah.
Right, go back. Okay, go back. I just wonder if we need to double click in the slide. No, go
Oh.
up. Hang on a minute, shall I try?
Now I've got really... yeah.
Excuse us. Talk among yourselves. Shall we take questions now? this might be... No, don't go. Stop where you are. Stop where you are.
Right.
I'm going to run through it. Look at them very quickly. That was absolutely brilliant while we do this. I think that was fantastic.
It was.
We'll applaud now while we
It worked perfectly in Southsea.
Yes,
Didn't it, Sue?
Ah.
It did. Yeah, it did.
Where's the cursor gone? Sulking? It's not working. I don't understand. Click there. I think I know why. I think because you're using my laptop, the film clip has to be loaded somewhere. The film clip isn't loaded on.
No, I don't think it's like that.
No, it should be on the stick.
It's on a slide, on a disc.
On disc, it should be on there.
Should be on a disc.
Yes, that's how it was.
Poor
Yeah.
idea. That was an idea. It's a good idea.
Will it work from the disc direct rather than through the...
Don't ask me.
Oh, right.
There we
I'm
go.
not sure I know what I'm talking
It doesn't
about.
want to go.
Okay.
There we go. It won't play.
If you want 5 minutes, I can get my laptop.
Could you please?
Mm.
It could. It's not compatible. Look, Windows Media Player encounters a problem. We will watch the film very soon. But until we do, are there any questions? I've got a question.
Yeah. You have to sit down.
I love Sardinia. I can totally understand why he was inspired. Those beautiful drawings, where are they now? The Sardinia.
They're with my brother-in-law.
Right. They do need to be exhibited in Sardinia, don't they?
I mean, we have written to the Sindaco. He was in the area around Piscinas.
Southwest
Yes.
Sardinia.
Yes.
Yes.
If and someone that we know in Venice who has gone to Sardinia has spoken to the mayor, the Sindaco, We have written more than once, and there is nothing's, I mean, they say, yes, lovely, but it stops. It stops there.
What about in Cagliari, where the museums are?
We haven't.
No, the thing is that there is this man in Venice. He's from Sardinia, and he saw the exhibition last year, and he pushed us to do something about this.
Yeah,
He wanted to have this exhibition in Sardinia, in the place where my father was.
Yeah, and nothing.
He went to Sardinia, he talked to the mayor, and etc., 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 and he said, came back and said, you should write to the mayor, and he will answer back.
They're on Sardinian
Still-
time though, aren't they? They
Possibly,
do work
yeah,
in a
they are
different,
in a
they
different,
don't work on hours on the same
the other side of the
time scale
water.
as
Is
us.
a
Yeah,
bit
that's
a
right,
problem.
So in a few years' time, you'll get a reply.
It could be not. I don't know.
Don't hold your breath. You know, they're not in a hurry there.
I have another.
And because
Hold on.
sorry, no, because this chap in Sardinian chap who lives in Venice, he saw all those dress which you don't see anymore in Sardinia.
No, just in postcards.
So that he said it will be very important, even not only because the art and the design, etc., but because represent the time,
A record
a
of.
record of
It's
the
a
time.
historical record.